Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Normandy Seaside for the 49th Annual American Film Festival in Deauville. Now, this festival has long been famous for its star-studded premieres and its great competition. This year, though, with the actors' strike, the focus is really on the films, and we're going to be talking about that today with France 24 film critic Lisa Nesselson. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Jeannie.
Lisa, you have been coming to this film for almost 30 years. What keeps you coming back?
It's a delightful event as film festivals go. As you can see, we're in this gorgeous setting on the English Channel with really adorable Norman architecture around us. But as you alluded to, it is the quality of the films. What's astonishing is that in a town of a few thousand people, the locals have a better chance of seeing a lot of American independent films than my sister does in New York. I mean, it's silly. So you may see films here that are not even going to get distributed in the U.S. There are 14 American independent films in the competition, and I believe 80 films in all. So there's a lot to keep busy with for 9.5 days.
Now, there are also a lot of films shown out of competition as well, and one of the big productions that was screened this year, just days after its world premiere in Venice, was Dogman from French director Luc Besson. Now, as you can probably guess from its title, it's about a man who is played by indie favorite Caleb Landry Jones and who has a very special relationship with his dogs. Take a look.
You dogs, you piece of shit!
Did you know anyone else? Somebody that could show you some attention or affection?
A child takes affection where you can get it. They're my babies. As far as I can tell, they only have one flaw. They trust humans.
Dogman, the film that got its French premiere here in Deauville just after its world premiere in Venice. Now, in Venice, Lisa, the film got very mixed reviews. What was the reaction like here?
I was in the room, and I'd say the vast majority of 1,500 people were applauding wildly and very, very enthused. There were a few detractors, but and it was very, very touching to see Luc Besson embrace his children, his wife, because he felt he'd been understood. Even if you think it's a profoundly silly idea or whether you're touched, there is no question that Caleb Landry Jones gives an astonishing, central, anchoring performance. Even though his character is beyond bizarre, you believe that's who he is.
For many, Dogman is considered Luc Besson's comeback. You were mentioning this idea of being understood because Besson was just cleared of rape charges recently here in France. He's kind of hoping this film will be his comeback, help him get back to his previous A-list status. Now, Dogman was also one of the few independent movies in Deauville that got an interim agreement from the SAG-AFTRA union to actually do promotion. That's the union, of course, of actors and writers who are currently on strike. Here in Deauville, 4 of this year's honorees actually had to cancel their appearances due to the strike. Peter Dinklage, Natalie Portman, Jude Law, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Lisa, would you say that the absence of those 4 stars was a big blow to the festival?
Well, for the autograph seekers, they just have to seek a lot harder to get an autograph. But they've gone on with the tributes, and so we have a chance to see retrospectives of their work. And I have to say, it's very much fun to breathe the same air molecules as a Mick Jagger, Meryl Streep, or lots of people who have been here over the years. But, it's the films that matter. Also, we have a little bit of star power, I think, in the presence of Kyle Eastwood, who's a very accomplished bass player who performed on opening night and who just released an album of symphonic versions of music his dad, Clint Eastwood, has composed for his films. And when you look at not just Clint Eastwood's filmography, but the amount of music he's composed, extremely impressive.
Yeah, that was a great concert at the opening. Also talking about star power, there was also Emilia Clarke, the mother of dragons from Game of Thrones, who was here and who was interviewed by our very own Eve Jackson. Now, Lisa, I know another highlight from opening night for you was a tribute that was paid to American photographer and independent filmmaker Jerry Schatzberg. Tell us about that.
Oh, Jerry Schatzberg was born in 1927. He's 96 years old. I wish I had his energy, and I wish to be as sharp as he is now next week. You may not know his name, and you can be forgiven for that, but but if you're at all attuned to iconic imagery of the 50s, 60s, 70s, he was a photographer who seemed to know everybody. He's often referred to as Bob Dylan's personal photographer. He did the cover for Blonde on Blonde. The photograph he took of Faye Dunaway was the poster for the Cannes Film Festival a few years ago. And the Cannes Film Festival 50 years ago, he shared the top prize, the Golden Palme, for the movie Scarecrow, starring Al Pacino and Gene Hackman. You could also say that Jerry Schatzberg gave Al Pacino his very first leading role in a film called The Panic in Needle Park, and he's famous for having made truly independent films. He and I got to sit down together shortly before his name was stenciled on a beach cabana out here on the boardwalk, and here's what he had to say. You were born in 1927. When you were a boy growing up in the Bronx, did you ever dream of having your name on a cabana on the boardwalk in Normandy?
The only thing I ever dreamed of at that time was whether my father would be home in time to take me to the movies. And I used to go Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I loved it.
In 1973, you shared the top award, the Golden Palme, at the Cannes Film Festival, and that was for the melancholy road movie starring Al Pacino and Gene Hackman. Is there a difference between being recognized in a foreign country and being recognized at home?
I've never been recognized at home the way I am in Europe and many other places in the world. Because in America, if your film doesn't make a zillion dollars the first week, they pull the film and they don't show it again because they don't want to spend the money. And that basically happened on a number of my films. And I don't blame Americans. I don't think they've had a chance to see it. The young people now see it. I keep hearing from all the young people. I get letters from young people. I'm grateful that somebody likes my films.
You gave Al Pacino his first leading role in 1971 in the gritty drug addiction drama Panic in Needle Park, which was shot on location in New York. How did he end up in the film?
I had seen Al on the stage in
The Indian Wants the Bronx?
The Indian Wants the Bronx. And I thought he was fantastic. I got the script to Panic at Needle Park, and I turned it down because I just finished my first film, and the lab had scratched the last 6 minutes of my negative, and I was just so upset. Then I went to my manager's office, and he says, there's a good script around, you ought to read it. I said, what's it called? And he said, I said, Marty, I think I turned that down. He said, well, I think it's a really good script. And we talked for a while, and then when I got ready to leave, he said, Al is interested. And immediately, because I just loved him as an actor.
Guillaume Canet appeared in your film from 2000, The Day the Ponies Come Back, and he's the president of the jury here in Deauville this year. What about him struck you a little over 20 years ago, and would you have guessed that he would grow up to be such an ambitious filmmaker himself?
I think I would, but, after getting to know him. I told some friends that I was looking for a young French actor in my part. It takes place in the drug world in Manhattan and all that. They said, they have a friend who's visiting a friend. Maybe you ought to see him. And they told me how old he was, and I thought he was too young for the part. And he made an appointment to come and see me. As soon as I opened the door and I looked at him, and he was my character.
Jerry Schatzberg talking there about Guillaume Canet, the president of the jury this year in Deauville. And Lisa, there was a really sweet moment when Guillaume Canet ran up the steps to help Jerry Schatzberg come down for his tribute. Tell us about the competition, a few of the films that are being screened here among the dozens that we can see in Deauville.
I've still got a few to go, but so far I'm very impressed by something called Cold Copy, which couldn't be more pertinent. It's about Do you do real journalism on television, like we do at France 24, or do you just try to be clickbait and be sensational and pry into people's private lives? So it's about a young woman who is absolutely desperate to impress a local television personality and what she does to do that. Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe. My vote for most cumbersome title, but in fact, it was a best-selling young adult novel. And we've always had teenage coming-of-age stories, but now we have quite a few that are about gay romances, non-binary, intersex. And so this is a very touching, extremely well-acted story about two young male friends, probably about 16, in Texas in the 1980s, trying to figure out their feelings. And then one I absolutely love that is not in competition called Fitting In. And I sometimes fight back against the idea that there are stories that only a woman could tell. But I'm willing to acquiesce that this might be one of them because it's autobiographical. And the director was herself diagnosed with something called MRKH syndrome. So she has 16-year-old Lindy who finds out that she has this. And what it means is that she was born without a vagina or a uterus. People have parts of their bodies missing, and that's what happened to her. And so imagine finding that out when your hormones are hitting, when you're just deciding which classmates you find sexy. And this sounds potentially depressing, but it's very funny, very insightful. I enjoyed it to pieces.
And just a quick word, Lisa, on a biopic that's also being shown out of competition starring Oscar winner Helen Mirren.
Helen Mirren got a lot of flack for not being herself Jewish to play Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir. And guess what? I couldn't care less, and neither should you. She was absolutely the ideal choice to play this incredibly important historical figure.
Oh, Lisa, thanks so much for that. That wraps up this encore from the American Film Festival in Deauville. And we have a clip for you now of Golda. Check it out and see you soon.
Russians are preparing 11 airborne divisions.
When I was a child in Ukraine, they would beat Jews to death in the street for fun. I am not that little girl hiding in the cellar.
Oh, by brave ascent, oh, by accident.
Do you know how many people died?
All those boys. I will carry that pain to my grave.
Oh, by his lady's command, oh, by
We will keep fighting for a guarantee of life and peace.